Welcome back, guys. This time we have one of the most important witnesses of the Bean to Bar movement. He has given a big help to the American movement of Bean to Bar in the beginning, and then a lot of new chocolate makers from any corner of the world has decided to visit his festival. Really, we are so happy to talk with him because surely he knows a lot of things and tricks about the international movement of Bean to Bar chocolate makers. So we are at the episode number 6. We are still in US, and we are with a special guest that started to understand the potentiality of bean to bar chocolate crafters a lot of years before starting with the first and still really the most important festival for chocolate crafter in the world, the famous Northwest Chocolate Festival. And here we are with Brian Cisneros. Hello, Brian. Welcome in our podcast.
Hi Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me as a guest. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, welcome to our podcast. And like for all our guests, we want you to introduce yourself. Where do you live? Your background before that you enter in the world of chocolate.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, as you said, my name is Brian Cisneros. I'm from Seattle, Washington, in the United States, which is where the Northwest Chocolate Festival happens every year. I live right now outside of Portland, Oregon, just south of Seattle. And I have 2 dogs and enjoy a lot of time outdoors in nature. You might hear my dogs bark at some point. And I've been in the craft or artisan chocolate industry since 2007. I was first introduced to it in 2005, 2006, when some friends of mine opened a company called Theo Chocolate, which is based in Seattle. And that was my introduction to chocolate as a food, and that it was a product that had farmers who were growing something, and then it was manufactured somewhere else. And that brought up a lot of questions for me. Thankfully, Theo, who started an organic and fair trade movement here in North America, had a lot of information. So at the beginning, I just kind of learned what is this thing that we love called chocolate. And before I started the Northwest Chocolate Festival, which I founded in 2008, before that, I was doing fundraising for nonprofits. So for organizations that are trying to help society, I would help them generate resources so that they could accomplish their mission.
And before the 2008, 2007, when you entered this chocolate business, what did you know about chocolate? I mean, it was just good food, a passion.
I mean, before that, I think like a lot of people, my experience of chocolate was something from childhood, was something related to sweets and candy. And I did not recognize chocolate as the sophisticated food that we know that it is today as professionals. However, as I said, when Theo Chocolate opened, that introduced me to the fact that there was a plant, a tree behind chocolate. I had never considered that. I think that was the first and most eye-opening thing for me. And that was around 2006 when I learned that. And you'll see, if you come to the Northwest Chocolate Festival, we have large scale, 3-meter high photographs of cocoa trees and cocoa pods and things, because it tells a story even when you see it and realize, oh, chocolate is a food. Oh, it's grown somewhere. So that experience for me has made its way through our show and a lot of the work that we do today.
So it was love at first sight.
It was a type of love at first sight. Yeah, it was love for food. It was love for food, and realizing that this thing I thought was a candy was actually a food, and I fell in love with it at that point.
Bean to Bar Chocolate Crafter in US started a few years ago as a long way that hit all the world. Now, really, everywhere we have people that make Bean to Bar chocolate. How was related your knowledge about chocolate making to the idea to create different activities for the chocolate crafter? Did it started in the same time or before or later? when you see that there was this potentiality?
Good question. It happened together. So when I started the Northwest Chocolate Festival, there was 6 craft chocolate makers in North America, only 6. And obviously today it's a very different landscape for craft chocolate. But because the industry was growing at the same time, we learned from each other. So the activities that I developed them because the chocolate makers were asking for them, or because we were part of the same community. It was obvious these things were missing for us. And over time, the workshops, the education programs, a lot of the education we do now is for professionals and for consumers. And so I think that's one of the nice developments that's happened over time. But we built it with the chocolate community because we were growing at the same time as the chocolate industry.
We all knew these last 2 years how terrible it's been for the exhibitions, okay? But you are not only the organizer of an exhibition, you have a lot of different business activities. Can you tell which is the most successful one and which is the one that you think will have a better, a brighter future for chocolate professional, of course?
Good question. Well, I can tell you, the last 2 years has been difficult for us for the festival, obviously. However, that is, of course, our flagship piece is the Northwest Chocolate Festival. It is our gift to the chocolate community. It is our gift to the consumers to teach them about where chocolate comes from. I don't think we could replace that with anything else. There may be other ways to do similar things in different locations in the future when that becomes a possibility. I look forward to that. The exciting things that we've built the last 2 years are working on our unconference, which has been very popular, which is a participant-driven conference that professionals attend and use to solve business challenges. So that has moved virtually. And we're building up the capacity to host a more robust virtual unconference. For me, one of my big passions is sensory analysis. So chocolate tasting, quality control, evaluation of products. We started our awards program in 2008. So I've been working with professionals to evaluate chocolate quality for 14 years now. And what's come out of that is a new set of tools that we've begun teaching professionals about how to evaluate chocolate. And we call it sensory analysis. We have a 100-point system, and you go through and you can evaluate your own products using this 100-point system to make sure that the quality is where you want it to be. We use it in competitions, so judges are using this to evaluate products that are being given awards. We've been using this for 5 years now to give awards. And now this last year, we just released the program for professionals to be able to learn how to use this system as well. So I'm very excited for that. Passion-wise, I have a lot of passion for teaching quality control and product quality analysis to professionals. I think that whether or not what is most successful is going to be what the community needs. What the industry wants, because of course we're only going to be able to succeed where we work together with chocolate makers, with equipment partners like FBM. That I think is where the future lies for success for us.
Can we go a little deeper on the unconference? I remember 10 years ago when we first visited and exhibited in the festival, and we realized that it was this peculiar unconference that I think is something unique in the world. Okay. You have to know that in Europe, well, in Italy, any pastry chef, chocolate maker, chocolatier, these are kind of trying to hide, the secrets of their own production, of their own creativity. That it seems that they are the only ones who can make chocolate. Okay, so when we first understood that it was this kind of, hey, people, competitors are sharing experience. They are really sharing their knowledge. That was something strange to us. We were not used to. Can you tell us about how the idea came out? How did you realize that it would have been successful?
Well, it was an experiment when we started.
Okay.
So sometimes you don't know if you're going to be successful and you have to try. So we knew the tools. So we knew the tools worked, that this type of gathering has been used a lot in the technology industry, for startups, for companies that are trying to move very quickly towards solutions. So we knew it had been functional before, but we didn't know if chocolate and chocolate makers would want to share their secrets. I think that there's two things though.
Do you think they really do?
Well, there is the secrecy, like you were saying, that comes from a lot of tradition where you learn your craft from somebody and you study under them for some period of time and you invest in learning, and therefore that knowledge is yours and you don't give it away to other people, but you give them your products, the product of that knowledge. And I think there's a lot of um, there is a time and a place for that, and it's also kind of the historical way that it's been done. Now, with technology and information and the internet, the distribution of knowledge has changed. So I think what we saw a few years back was a new generation of business owners who had come up in the more information sharing internet kind of age, and also had not already spent 10 years studying under a master chocolatier or a master pastry chef. They were just entering the industry and they were very familiar with the idea of sharing information. So we took that and we said, can we build a new type of industry or a new way that the industry communicates with itself using these two things? And it did break the mold for what chocolate had seen before. And some companies decided they couldn't do that. So some people cannot be in that space, and that's okay. But for those who are willing to be transparent and to share with each other, they have shown again and again that they get a lot of benefit, tremendous benefit from working together. Because when you take an artisan industry, yes, people are competitors, but really what the industry is trying to do is get a little bit more market share on the larger, more commercial, more commodity products. It's not about teaching people to like chocolate. It's about introducing your chocolates to the people who already like and eat chocolate. So rather than battle amongst each other for who's going to be the top craft chocolate maker, the opportunity is here to work together to take more and more of the market share away from the commodity and bulk products and bring more consumers into this. And that means that there's more for everyone, more customers, more revenue. So I think when we work together, there's a tremendous opportunity available to us today that didn't exist before.
No way. Do you think it is still like at the beginning? I mean, competition, well, the market grew, more chocolate makers from everywhere. I mean, all around the world. It's a little different from the very beginning.
Yes, I saw the beginning. We're not at the beginning. At the beginning, there was 6. Now there is, 600. There's 1,000. It's growing. So I think we're at a good point in this industry where more and more people are starting to know about artisan chocolate, and I think that there's more people who are interested in working together now as well, and that's exciting for us.
Yeah. After the first years, we subscribed as the first machines maker for chocolate in some of your activities, and now many other joined us. When and why did you understand? I remember in the beginning we had to bring the rumbo. It was 600 kilos, and you were worried to put us in the second floor, but we did. So when and why did you understand that also machines could be involved in the organization of those activities?
Yes. So, yes, you were one of the first machine and equipment partners to come to the show, and we didn't know what to do. I mean, the machines were bigger than we thought. It was, but again, that's the growing pain, and then you figure out, okay, this is actually exciting. Not just for our attendees, but we have a show floor filled with chocolate makers who are now about to purchase their next machine, hopefully. I think that it's not that we discovered that machines were important for our show, but that technology has begun to get more accessible to the craft and artisan chocolate maker.
Let's talk a little about how your activities grew up also internationally, because at the very beginning it was kind of a, focus on the country, on your country, local. Now we can meet chocolate makers from everywhere, basically everywhere, from Philippines, from the farthest places in the world. When did you understand, did you realize, it was a very moment where did you realize that the bean to bar chocolate movement would have included so many countries, so many parts of the world?
Well, good question. There's two parts to that. And one is, why do I think that so many international folks come to our show to exhibit? And then the other is, what kind of sparked that idea for me? And I think that a lot of international companies come to exhibit because at least early on, there was not a lot of venues for craft chocolate makers to meet each other, to exchange products, to test their products on an audience in Seattle that has a high amount of expendable income, so they can buy a $10, a $14, a $20 chocolate bar. That's a good audience to test
Sure.
your products out on. So I think that made it worthwhile for people to travel, because they actually quickly recovered their cost. And so it became a hub for community, for people to see each other once a year. And there are other chocolate shows, obviously, in the world. I think we were one of the first ones to really focus on the small chocolate maker, and other chocolate shows were having the large companies, which is fine, but they were having the M&Ms and the Mars and the other things, and we decided we're actually only going to have the small chocolate maker. And so for many years, we actually didn't allow any company that had more than a certain number of employees to exhibit in the show. We kept it small intentionally, and that, I think, really helped build some trust in this community. They knew it was a place they could come to get honest feedback about their products and meet other makers.
Do you remember a particular year when it happens, in a particular edition?
Well, so the other question is, when did I think that this was going to be international? And it was from the beginning, because two of the first chocolate makers that I met, one was Steve DeVries, who at the time had DeVries chocolate. Yeah, and he was traveling to Costa Rica and fermenting his own cacao beans. He was the first chocolate maker who was going from North America to get hands-on in these very small batches. So he taught me right away. He was one of my first friends in the chocolate industry, and he taught me right away, this is a global product.
Yeah, chocolate is also cocoa, and we know how is the economic under and behind the cocoa. How is your interest, including the chocolate, the cocoa producers, in the new activities of the festival?
So yeah, including the cocoa producers, was that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I am very inspired to include cocoa producers in our work. And the Unconference was the first thing where we got people who were representing cocoa producers at the table with chocolate makers to begin to talk about, what do we need? How can we make relationships work in this part of the industry? We are producing some programs next year that will be in Spanish. So we're producing a series of programs for designed for cocoa producers. We have a field science program next year that's going to go through fermentation and drying and soil management, and that will be in a couple of languages as well. Where that comes from, so half of my family is from Sweden.
Oh, really?
Yes, it came over to North America from Sweden, and I am the second generation on that side of the family, born here in the United States. And the other half of my family comes from Mexico, and we're from the Tamaulipas area in the Gulf Coast. So the other half of my family has been here for 3,000 years, and Coco for me has a different meaning. And so being able to bring workshops and development and other things to those groups and those communities for me is essential for me. It's part of my heritage.
Okay. Okay. Over the years, we saw some chocolate makers that upgraded, some chocolate makers that stopped exhibiting at your festival. Is there any chocolate makers that you remember it was there from the very first edition and is still intended to exhibit?
There's definitely some chocolate makers who've been there from the beginning. I'm probably going to miss somebody, I'm sure, but
Be careful.
I know that Fresco Chocolate, that Rob Anderson is a company that has been there from the very beginning. Theo Chocolate, as I mentioned, also exhibited. I think almost every year. There may have been a year or two where they didn't. And I know that Dick Taylor has exhibited for every year since they've been in business.
Okay.
So that has been wonderful to see their company grow and develop and to have a friendship with them through that time. There are other companies who exhibited every single year and have shifted their, as you said, they've shifted their products or shifted their business. Don't come any longer, but Lilly Bell Farms from Oregon was another one who, excellent chocolate maker, it exhibited from the very beginning and was a huge supporter of our show. Someone else who's come many, many times and really has provided a lot of support through the years is Chloe Dutré-Rousseau from Paris, and she has provided a lot of just guidance and friendship over the years to us as an event, which I find really, really just heartwarming. So we've had a lot of support from people over the years.
But is still there the limit of the small scale? If some of your older exhibitor, they upscale and start being a very big company, are you willing to tell them, hey, you cannot exhibit anymore because you are too big right now?
Well, I think, good question. I think we've moved beyond the size question.
Okay.
In the artisan chocolate industry at this point, at least for our show, and we're more interested in your business practices and how you show up in the world. I really support and invite large companies who are doing socially responsible chocolate making activities in their business to come and exhibit, because that's who we want to be spotlighting. So if you have more products and you can reach more people, I say fantastic. Like, yes, come and be part of our show. But it's more about the quality of the products and the quality of the relationships that your business maintains than how many employees you have at this point. Because we want people to grow. That's the point of.
Yeah.
Of course.
And what about the big companies? The
Hershey,
this
Guitar.
company. Are you thinking about something about them, or you?
They have good, yeah, I think they have their audience, and so I'm not trying to, they're their own type of business. They tend to avoid our show. And we don't actively seek them out, but they also don't actively seek us out. I think because we produce a very large education program. We're teaching people what kinds of questions to ask about their chocolate products. So if they want to be on the show floor and have those questions be posed about their products, it could be productive for them actually. But at this point, it's not something we've had to deal with yet.
Back to the chocolate crafters. Tell us the most famous or particular chocolate maker you hosted. I know you had the bigs of the Bean to Bar crafters, but also Al Nazma from Dubai, who is making chocolate with camel milk, or there are also a guy Fu Wan from Taiwan that makes chocolate with the fish. So tell us at least 3 peculiar stories of chocolate makers who you had in your festival.
Well, I mean, you just named a bunch of really great chocolate makers. So I think for me, what's exciting is all of the different innovations that the chocolate makers come out with every year, and you don't know ahead of time which company is going to have it yet. Someone shows up with something that's just wild, and that's what's exciting about it. So every year it seems like that shifts around a little bit of who's got the really innovative products to taste and to see, packaging, things like that. So that's kind of more exciting to me, is to see some of the same companies coming and showing their innovation. You just mentioned a few really great ones as well. But what I miss, I think, right now is some of the informal networking and the events and the after hours things after shows like that. As we all know, like, you go to a festival or you go to something, and then to be able to network with your peers afterwards. Some of those are my fondest memories as well, of the innovative chocolate makers getting together to share their ideas. Certainly something I miss. But I'm excited for, I think we're going to see a lot more even smaller scale chocolate makers coming onto the scene over the next couple of years, that are going to maybe challenge some of the more established artisans in how they work with the cocoa beans and the flavors that they're getting. And that's what I'm really excited to see. And kind of like beer or coffee. So like specialty coffee, all of a sudden, once it had traction, many more small artisan coffee roasters everywhere. I think we're going to see something similar for chocolate over the next few years, that some of the more established companies are going to have to also innovate to keep going within the marketplace.
Yeah. Alongside the chocolate makers' growth, there are also some new characters, some new businesses that were born. So influencer, bloggers, professional chocolate consultants. Your activities are more, I would say, more practical, more, how do you relate to this kind of new? I remember some of the names from Sharon Terenzi, Barbie Van Horn, Clay Gordon. How do you combine your activities with theirs? Do you take some support for them? How is that?
Yeah, so I think that in this industry that we're in, the more communication that we can have, like the more, like you were mentioning, influencers, you named some great people as well. And I think that the more that we support them, is a very short way of saying that. We support their work, and the more people we can have telling the story of craft chocolate and artisan chocolate and fine chocolate, the better. Like I said, the idea is not who's better within, for at least for us, not who's better within the industry, but that we have more people to reach outside of this industry around how great these products are, and how great some of these chocolate makers are, and how exceptional some of the equipment and machinery that is out here in the world is right now. I mean, we're at a time of technology that is fantastic if you want to learn how to make chocolate. Like, this is your time. Like, this is the time to order a machine if you're ready to make chocolate, I think, because of where technology has gotten. You used to have to get an entire warehouse and fill it with machines if you wanted to make a single bar of chocolate. Now you can do it in one room of your house. You can convert your garage into a food safe space and start a chocolate factory. And FBM has been there the whole time, helping people get to this place. So I appreciate that, and I think that's going to create the next wave of innovation. And we need more influencers and more people who can be dedicating their passion and time to reaching folks about these products, because small chocolate makers, and even ones that are growing, don't have the same amount of time to reach people and promote their products. Plus, you and I know that it's them promoting their product. But when a third party, like Sharon Terenzi, the chocolate journalist, when she reviews a chocolate, it's a third party saying, this is a great product, and it's someone that you can trust, that you know has put a lot of their time into understanding if this is a good product or what it tastes like. And it helps everyone. It helps me as the consumer decide I want to buy this product. It helps the craft chocolate maker who didn't have time to tell you about it, or it would have looked like an advertisement. And instead, we have someone who prides themselves on their ability to discern the quality of the chocolate and to tell us about it. That's the kind of influence that I'm really excited about, actually. So,
yeah. Brian, we have quite finished, and like always, we regularly ask in our podcast. There is the last question, difficult question. Before, please mention some of the current activities you are setting up, and how do you see yourself in the next year. But the main question is, how do you see your whole organization in 2030? So quite in 10 years.
In 10 years, I would love to see, in 10 years, I would love to see the Northwest Chocolate Festival still be a centerpiece for our industry. I hope that we will see a lot of chocolate companies that are operating in origin countries, in regions where cocoa grows, and that will be normal, actually, 10 years from now, that will be a very normal part of our industry, and that cocoa producing regions will take up a fair and equal share of product sales in the marketplace to the makers of North America and Europe. I think there's room for everyone. So 10 years from now, that's what I would love to see, is that we have maybe even more shows besides the Northwest Chocolate Festival, but that they're filled equally with producers from countries like the United States and Italy, and also from places where cocoa grows. So I think that would be my high dream for us as an industry, and for a lot more consumers 10 years from now, to be supporting this industry, and for innovative companies like FBM to actually be in a very successful position globally to support the growth, like I said, of origin countries and developed countries in making fantastic chocolate products.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Okay. It is a dream.
And as the bean-to-bar market can increase, I mean, versus the big companies' chocolate market.
Well, if the price, like there's climate change and all these other things that are happening, right? And I'm not in support of any, obviously it's a catastrophe. But if the price of commodity chocolate has to go up, right, because of these things, they're trying not to right now, but if it has to go up, suddenly the expensive bean-to-bar craft chocolate is not going to look so expensive anymore. It's going to look more realistic. So I think that gives us opportunity to reach more consumers with a more sustainable product, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we will see surely.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you in person. Thank you so much.
We must, and you must.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ciao.